Good
Hello.
morning.
Cheers.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Oh, that was an odd, I don't know what accent that was.
Yours or mine?
Mine. Anyway, hello.
Morning. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I need to get my iPad open. Unlocked. I'm good. Just rushing around like a chicken, like one of my chickens. But
Just not with its head off.
yeah.
Yeah. They have full heads.
Yeah, I was like, what? I still have like 20 minutes. And then I like looked and I was like, I have 8 minutes. Okay. Let's go.
We gotta move it.
Yes. Anyway, show off my shirt.
Yes, it's amazing.
Thank you, Katie.
Let me seduce you with my knowledge of serial killers.
It's fantastic, and it makes people go.
Yeah.
They like run away from me, so it's fine.
Yes. It's good. Good.
What's new? What's happening?
Oh, this is the first moment I've probably sat down and just focused on this.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's been busy. The last couple of weeks have been a whirlwind, and I mean, there was a wedding in there.
Oof.
There was Halloween.
Yes.
There was work.
Ugh.
Work was good.
I mean, it's good when work is slow. Good when your work is slow.
Was not slow, but more mellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a plus. But busy with projects that we're working on for the year.
Yay, projects.
Oh, yes.
I like projects. I'm just working on people, like, it got cold all of a sudden here. And people are like, Heidi, are you still making hats?
I need crochet items.
Are you still making hats? And I'm like, yeah.
Give me all the hats and scarves you possibly have.
And I'm doing a little like local like vendor show thing for they have their like little parade, and like they only have 7 vendors this year because it's inside and COVID.
Right. Lots of restrictions.
Yeah, but these are like my affordable hats with like my store-bought yarn that I didn't make. So
right.
But I like this color.
I like it. I like that color a lot. That army green.
Yeah, it's like a nice avocado. California roots coming back, yo.
They always do.
Avocados.
We can't get rid of them. We can't get rid of them.
And poo-poo to anyone who doesn't like avocados.
Cheers to that.
Right? Cheers. We love our avocados.
We do. I had one yesterday.
Especially on toast.
With my chorizo and eggs. Huevos.
Holy hell, that sounds good.
It is. It's delicious.
I need to get some chorizo.
I can't get rid of my Hispanic roots.
Well,
I know I'm not Hispanic, nor do I look Hispanic, but
neither of us are, but we have Hispanic roots.
They're very strong inside.
I remember like my favorite thing, one of my favorite childhood memories, waking up, camping, always camping. First thing in the morning, my mom would have like hot chocolate made already. Like she already had like the fire roaring. It's still dark out.
That's awesome.
She's got hot chocolate made, and the woman is making freaking chorizo, eggs, and potatoes, burritos and tacos. Oh my goodness gracious! Oh, so good,
delicious.
Anyway, getting hungry thinking about that. So
we like food.
Yes. So before we go on to my story,
yes,
we're going to talk about my coffee real quick. I saved the link here for it. Open. Oh, come on. Just open it. It's so weird. So it's Cameron's Specialty Coffee. They are out of Minnesota. And this is actually their, so you can get this at Costco, at least where I live, but it's organic Velvet Moon espresso.
That sounds very fancy.
Dude, it is so good. And I hand pour it, of course, because that's what I do always.
Yes, yes.
Let's see. So it is a blend. Let's see. It's Central American and Indonesian coffee blend. So they blended them together to make like I swear this is like a perfect coffee. It's so good. Smooth, it's strong, it's delicious. And they're all like fair trade, Rainforest Alliance, all that stuff. So I highly recommend it.
Would you say it's dark and full bodied?
Absolutely.
Cheers to that.
That was a good one. More cheers. What was that accent? Where'd that come from? I think that was Australian. Sorry, Australia.
We apologize for
Anyway,
any offensive.
I'll show you.
We say.
I think my Australian people would love my accent.
I think that they would get a giggle.
Practicing since a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
So, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this week.
So, yeah, we're covering Robert Hansen.
Ooh,
the Butcher Baker.
Oh boy. Tell me more.
This guy, he is an Alaskan serial killer. He's not Alaskan. He lived in Alaska while he was killing. Let me put that emphasis out there. Clarify that. Trigger warnings, kidnapping, rape, and murder. So, like, if you're not cool with any of that, probably, I'm not going to go into any detail because I don't like to do that. It's a little too much. And I would never get through the story if I did.
Right. Sometimes these stories we tell are very...
I'd be crying.
Hard to research and talk about, but important to talk about.
And I just want to preface it. If you've ever seen the movie Frozen Ground with Nicolas Cage and Vanessa Hudgens.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Vanessa Hudgens plays one of the very important characters from his story. That movie was based on Robert Hansen's actual, mostly based on like the detective that was hunting him. But Vanessa Hudgens played a sex worker who was a key player in him getting caught. So, and she actually got to meet this woman in real life.
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
Learned about her life story from the time she was a child, so that she had a better understanding of who she was. Pretty cool.
Nice. That is cool. I'm gonna have to watch this movie again because
ever since I saw that movie, I've been like kind of weirdly obsessed with this story because it's so gnarly.
Yeah.
So Robert Christian Hansen was born in Estherville, Iowa, on February 15th, 1939, to Edna and Christian Hansen. Hansen's father, Christian, was a baker, which is how Hansen was introduced to his future career. His mother, Edna, was a homemaker, which was pretty common for the time. No careers for the ladies back then.
Just making babies and marrying men.
Making food and cleaning up after them. And wearing high heels.
So boring.
Like wearing high heels to do your housework? No, thank you.
No thanks.
Okay. So during Hansen's adolescence, he was shunned by his peers for being scrawny and shy. And he had really bad acne, which caused like the acne scars.
The scarring and pockets.
Yeah, all the pitting. So sad. And he had a stutter. So imagine high school.
Add insult to injury.
Yeah. So the most difficult years are high school, and kids can be really fucking mean. So
they're brutal.
You don't fit their mold. God forbid you don't fit their mold. I mean, jeez.
We never did fit the mold, and we just made our own little posse.
I have my own mold. It's called
We
Be
don't
Who You
fit.
Are. Yeah.
We don't fit anywhere.
No, that's fine. And I put in here, I don't mean to stick up for a serial killer, but there is nature and nurture. And I honestly believe that a lot of his issue
Came
with
from
everything was all nurture.
community and
Yep. And his dad was extremely domineering. So psychological issues do arise, obviously. Unfortunately, Hansen didn't take any of this well, and he found comfort in plotting his revenge on all the girls who had shunned him. Add to all of this, his father was a yeah, exactly. His father was a pretty domineering guy, so Hansen got really into hunting and archery, both of which can be very solitary activities. Getting out into nature by yourself, bringing home meat for the freezer. And as you know, I personally love that lifestyle, but Hansen took it to a yikes,
another level,
a really fucked up level when
yeah.
when he started hunting women. So Hansen joined the U.S. Army Reserve in 1957, but that didn't last too long. And after just 1 year, he left the military. And he was then employed.
But he still had all that.
He had
I was going to say he still had that first year of training, which probably didn't help his endeavors.
Well, and already being a hunter plus getting all that training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not a good combo if you're a psycho.
Do not recommend.
Right? Yeah. So he was then employed as an assistant drill instructor at Pocahontas, Iowa Police Academy.
Sounds interesting.
So more training. Yikes. And it was around then Hansen married a younger woman in the summer of 1960. But she divorced him while he was in jail for an arrest in December of the same year. He had set fire to a Pocahontas County Board of Education school bus garage.
Okay, so he was a little bit of a firebug as well.
Well, and that was just revenge for how he was treated in school. So he attacked the school.
That makes sense.
So he was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but he only ended up serving 20 months of that sentence. And it was during this incarceration that Robert was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and periodic schizophrenic episodes. So not only was he bullied, he also has scary mental disorder. Yikes.
Brain is not functioning properly.
Yeah, schizophrenia is...
It's gnarly.
I mean, I've experienced people with both of those, and that they're both pretty sketch when you're not medicated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
we highly recommend mental health.
Yes. 150%.
Therapies. Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Get the help you need.
Yeah. And if you have a medication that helps you not act certain ways, take the medication. I know it's easier said than done because it levels you out so you don't feel anything, but like, I'd rather not feel anything myself than feel like I want to
out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the psychiatrist who made the diagnosis noted that Hansen had an infantile personality and was obsessed with getting back at people he felt had wronged him.
Always something. He always had a grudge.
Yep.
Always motivated him to do nasty stuff.
Yikes. Stripes.
Fruit stripe gum.
Fruit stripe gum. Don't sue us.
No, don't. I'm sorry.
It's so good. It was so good when we were kids.
That was the thing. That was the thing back in the 80s and 90s.
Did you remember taking the wrappers and making yourself tattoos?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
and you lick it and stick it.
Gross. So in the years following his incarceration, or this incarceration. Hansen was arrested and charged several different times for petty thefts. He's like all over the place. So Robert Hansen married his second wife, Darla, in 1963. Darla and Robert relocated to Anchorage, Alaska in 1967. They had 2 children together, and they were well liked by their neighbors and their community. And Hansen even set some local hunting records, which just BTW, they were like rescinded after all of this came out that he was a serial killer. They took those.
Oh, so they took the records away. They're like, he can't be a record holder.
Yeah. Eek. Who gave this guy a trophy? So yeah. In December of 1971, Robert Hansen was arrested twice. Once for abduction and attempted rape, and again for rape. He pled no contest to assault with a deadly weapon in the first offense, but the rape charge was dropped as part of a plea bargain. And I'm gonna hold right there for a second. So the attempted rape charge and kidnapping was a very well-to-do woman in the area.
Oh, okay. Maybe a socialite.
Right. Something of that sort. I don't know if they have socialites there, but like she was like a regular like housewife, a regular old housewife in the neighborhood, and the other woman, the charge that was dropped where he actually raped her, she was a sex worker.
Oh.
So I just have to throw that in there because it's weird.
Because it's where the judicial system went wonky.
And they definitely screwed up.
No.
In this case, they definitely screwed up because the times were different. I'll get there in a second.
Okay. She'll get there, guys.
Yeah, I'll get there. We will get there. Hansen was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but he was released on a work release program after only 6 months. And I will say that was the biggest mistake they ever made.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And why is because Hansen had abducted and attempted to rape a local and well-off woman. He not only got caught, but the hands of the law gave him a sentence that wouldn't have been so harsh had the woman been a sex worker. So he decided no more victims would live, and he would not hunt normal women that were not sex workers. He would only hunt sex workers from there on out. And that meant there would be nobody to go to the police because he would not let them live.
Right. And nobody was really looking for them because most likely nobody missed them. And if they disappeared, they were just like, oh, well, they were a prostitute and probably moved on to another city.
Yeah. And that's exactly like most of the articles I read, that's exactly what they said. Like, nobody cares about the prostitutes. I'm like, what? Like somebody
they're still humans. Somebody has to care. They're people.
I'm like, that was the first job.
First woman job.
That was the first like actual job. That was an occupation.
I mean, still is.
It is still. So in 1976, Hansen was caught stealing a chainsaw from an Anchorage Fred Meyer store.
So he was really terrible at stealing.
He was really bad at his career.
Yeah.
At least that career. So he pled guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison, where he was required to undergo psychiatric treatment for his bipolar disorder. Unfortunately, the Alaskan Supreme Court reduced his sentence and released him with time served. Another big mistake. And I just have to say that it's sad to see he got the same sentence for abducting and attempting to rape a woman as he did for stealing a chainsaw.
Yeah, judicial system. We got to do better.
For real. And also,
we got to do better.
And he got let out early both times. Like, how are you not seeing that this guy has like
a pattern,
psychopathic tendencies too?
He needs some help.
Yeah. So during all of this, there are women in Anchorage, dancers, not just sex workers, like dancers, sex workers going missing, and they can't find them.
They just disappear.
Gone. And this is why I say, like, during this time period, there were like There were like five total women police officers on the force in Anchorage.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of them was she was one of the first two allowed on the force.
Right, because
And
what was the year? 70 something?
70s, the
Yeah, yeah, that
1970s.
was when females were just starting to get
Yeah.
on
And
to police
yep,
forces and
yep. And
sheriff's offices.
people would just come up to her and be like, "Why aren't you at home raising your kids?" I'd be like, "Rude."
Not gonna lie, it's probably thought about for me too, still, on this
Fuck
day.
all of them. Fuck all of them. Bad motherfuckers. All right. So anyway, this one
Ignore her.
female, just ignore me. It's fine.
Sorry, let's go.
The one female police officer kept saying, like, there's a serial killer. I know there's a serial killer. And
Nobody wanted to listen to her.
nobody would listen to her.
Because she was a woman.
Because she's a woman. And she was right. So on June 13th, we're going to fast forward.
Okay.
On June 13th, 1983, 17-year-old Cindy Paulson, which is who Vanessa Hudgens played in the movie Frozen Ground,
Okay.
managed to escape from Hansen. Cindy was a dancer and a sex worker who had been lured into giving Hansen oral sex for $200. But when Cindy got into Hansen's car, he held her up at gunpoint and handcuffed her. And then Hansen held Cindy captive at his home, torturing her, sexually assaulting and raping her over and over again. And he had like this space downstairs in his basement where like he had like this big metal ring that he would like chain girls to.
So essentially a torture dungeon.
A torture dungeon, but like he would change the look of it when people were at his house.
Oh.
So like
So he had people at his house, like normal people?
Like when the cops came to search his house, like they didn't see all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hansen showed her his hunting trophies, and Cindy paid very close attention and now knew his real name because it was on all of those trophies. She realized he was planning to kill her, so she promised herself she would try to escape as soon as she had a chance, and then she would go to the authorities. And Hansen did eventually take Cindy to an airstrip because he had a plane, still handcuffed, and he warned her not to move or he would kill her. And Hansen left Cindy in the car so he could go load his plane. And as soon as she saw her chance, she hopped into the driver's seat of the car, opened the door, and took off running. She ran toward the nearest street, and depending on where you look, 5th or 6th Avenue, I got differing streets, with Hansen chasing after her and yelling at her. But she was
That's not going to create a scene.
I know, like, what are you doing? But it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Nobody out. But Cindy was relieved when she saw a vehicle driving toward her, and that vehicle stopped to help the barefoot and handcuffed frantic girl. Cindy jumped in the car and asked the driver to take her to a motel her boyfriend was at. And it's 5 a.m. What are the odds a car would actually be on the road right when she needed it?
Not.
Like, talk about fucking luck.
In my mind right now, I'm thinking somehow he got into another car and was meeting her, and it's him.
Right? Like, it's like a horror film now.
Yeah.
But anyway, the driver took her to the motel where they got a hold of Cindy's boyfriend and then called the Anchorage police. When the police arrived, Cindy told them in great detail about the man who had been holding her hostage and torturing her, raping her. She had info about his car, the street he lived on, even the gun he used to hold her up. So it was about an hour after her escape when the police were taking Cindy to the hospital to have her checked out, which is protocol for sexual assault victims. And they drove past an airstrip. And this was the same airstrip Hansen had his plane at. Cindy recognized it and led the police directly to Hansen's plane.
Nice.
So now here's where we find out some other information. Apparently there was a security guard on the airstrip premises. And this security guard noticed Hansen was acting strangely as he sped away from the airstrip. So
he didn't hear the screaming and yelling after the girl handcuffed running?
No. So the security guard wrote down Hansen's license plate number, though.
Oh, that was smart.
Yeah. So when the security guard saw the police were near the same area Hansen had been speeding away from, they flagged the police down and handed over their information that they had taken down. So now the police had the car's license plate and the plane info. So they contacted the FAA to get confirmation on who owned these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cindy maybe forgot his name because she was like probably frazzled.
She was in shock, I'm sure.
I would be.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So the police continued on to the hospital to get Cindy checked out. And as they pulled into the hospital parking lot, they got the call back from the FAA confirming who the plane and car were both registered to. And they were both registered to none other than Robert C. Hansen. Now, it took 4 months for them to actually arrest him. But he rejected the allegations and claimed that Cindy was just trying to frame him because he refused to pay her more money. Even with the multiple arrests, Hansen had a pretty good reputation in his community. Plus, he was timid and had an unassuming occupation as a baker. And everybody loved his bakery. And to top it off, he had a strong alibi thanks to his good friend for lying for him. Thanks, friend.
Thanks, friend.
If I ever do anything like this, don't lie for me.
No, seriously, I'm gonna be like,
you would be the one arresting me. You'd be like, bitch, you're under
why'd
arrest.
you do this? now we got to take you downtown. Look in.
So crappy. Anyway,
she's not gonna commit any crimes, by the way.
No, I don't do anything.
She doesn't do that.
The worst thing I do is like dye my hair. And I cuss a lot. I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah.
But all of this led to him being let go by the police, and he wasn't considered a serious suspect yet. Alaska state troopers had a team investigating the discovery of several bodies that had been found in and around the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, Anchorage, and Seward. So it was areas around where he lived. Shocking.
So you mean he hunted them and then tossed them into the ground?
Yeah.
Like deer or other animals.
Yeah, exactly. Detective Glenn Floth was one of these investigators. The first body was found by construction workers near Klutina Road. The body, now named Klutina Annie, by investigators has still not been identified. But I'll get to that a little later too.
Okay.
Later that same year, the body of Joanna Messina was found in a gravel pit near Seward. And in 1982, the remains of Sherry Morrow were found in a shallow grave near the Kinnick River. Detective Glenn Floth now had 3 dead bodies that seemed to all have been killed by the same person. So now they're finally like, we
really do have a serial killer. Okay.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, this detective actually was like, yeah, there is. Detective Floth got in contact with the FBI Special Agent John Douglas and asked for help with a psychological profile based on the 3 recovered bodies. And y'all are going to shit your pants when you hear this psych profile. Agent Douglas thought the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, have a history of being rejected by women, and would feel compelled to keep souvenirs of his murders, such as victims' jewelry. He also said that the assailant might stutter. Very specifically. I always find it fascinating.
Profilers are very good
it's
at their job.
To me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Detective Floth used this profile to look at potential suspects. He stopped once he came across Hansen. Robert Hansen had a stutter and he owned a plane. Plus, he was an avid hunter. And so They knew where these bodies were being found. Some of them there was no way to get to those areas except by plane. So,
Okay. Good
also,
info.
and then Cindy said that he was taking her on a plane. So,
Mhm.
his bakery occupation and location put him at the perfect spot at the perfect time of night to hunt for his victims. He worked nights baking for the next day. The perfect time to pick up sex workers.
Yes.
Plus, his bakery had a highway running right in front of it, not only giving his customers easy access, but also giving him easy access to his hunting grounds. So, yikes. Supported by Cindy's testimony and Agent Douglas's psych profile, Detective Floth and the Anchorage Police Department obtained a warrant to search Hansen's home, plane, and vehicles. On October 27th, 1983, investigators discovered pieces of jewelry that belonged to some of the missing women. They also found several firearms in a hidden corner of Hansen's attic. Upon further inspection of Hansen's home, police found an aeronautical chart with 37 little X marks on it, hidden behind Hansen's headboard.
Oh.
What?
Maybe a count of victims?
He's like laying in bed looking at his map, like, what a fucking creep.
Ugh.
Several of these marks matched locations where bodies had already been found prior to his arrest. And other bodies were recovered later at those then unexplored locations marked on Hansen's murder map. Yikes. When the police confronted Hansen with the evidence found in his home, though, Hansen denied everything as long as he could. But eventually he began to blame the women and attempted to justify his actions. Hansen ultimately ended up confessing to each item of evidence as it was presented to him, and he admitted to a spree of attacks against Alaskan women beginning in 1971. Hansen's earliest victims were girls or young women, usually between 16 and 19, and they were not sex workers.
Unlike where did they come from?
Those were his earliest victims.
Yeah. Oh.
Unlike the victims who led to his discovery.
Right.
So Hansen was arrested in 1983, and in those 12 years he was active, more than 30 women were raped and sexually assaulted by him, women and girls. And a minimum of 17 girls and women were killed. Hansen admitted he abducted, tortured, raped, and then flew these girls and women to secluded areas in the wilderness where he would release them so he could hunt them down and kill them with either a knife or his Ruger Mini 14 rifle. Yikes. So he would just like fly them out to this property which was like a normal hunting area.
Right.
Next to the Connect River. And he would just let them go. And he would chase them down and like be calling their name and like creeping them out, and like they would hide from him, and then he would find that it's really scary sounding.
He's a piece of shit.
But he confessed, and it took over 12 hours. 12 hours. His full confession was 12 hours long. Not just like his interrogation.
So he talked
his
for 12 hours on what he did to all these women.
Yep.
I wonder why he talked.
He needed to get it out. He was proud of it.
I guess he was probably just
trying to make people believe probably that they deserved it.
Right. He had a motive for Yeah.
So Hansen was only convicted for murdering 4 women: Sherry Morrow, Joanna Messina, Klutina Annie, and Paula Golding, as well as for kidnapping and raping Cindy Paulson. But he was sentenced. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
He was sentenced to a whopping 461 years in prison, plus a life sentence without the possibility of parole. And that piece of crap died in August of 2014 at the age of 75 in prison. I'm not done though. Because now we're going to talk a little more about the victims. A couple of the victims. The authorities never learned the identity of the woman whose body was first discovered among Hansen's victims. They named her Klutina Annie. You can still look her up. after the road near which her remains were found. On July 17th, 1980, workmen discovered the skeletonized remains of the Klutina Annie. Her body was buried in a shallow grave alongside a series of power lines north of Anchorage. Her body was pretty decomposed, indicating her death had occurred months prior. She wore several articles of clothing, and I'm going to list them. So if they sound familiar to you and they belonged to a missing loved one, say something. I'm also going to share pictures on our Instagram of the jewelry she had on. They don't have pictures of her clothing, which kind of irritates me, but like at least they have the jewelry.
Right.
And you can call Anchorage Police Department. This case is still open. Blah blah blah. So she had a brown leather hip-length jacket, a light-colored knitted sleeveless shirt, possibly white, beige, or light gray in color, blue jeans, red knee-high, high-heeled zip-up boots, go-go dancer boots, my favorite. A box of Salem matches were found in a pocket of her jacket, indicating she may have been a smoker. She was also wearing several pieces of jewelry, including an apparently handmade metal bracelet containing 3 turquoise stones, a copper necklace containing shell beads, and a heart pendant. She had a Timex metal wristwatch consisting of circular links, and it had a brown watch face. She had a ring carved with shell and a brown inset, and also a gold-plated twisted metal hoop earrings. And like I said, I'll share those on our Instagram.
Do you know if they did facial recognition for her?
They did, and I actually do have pictures of the sketches.
They have sketches, but they didn't like take her skull and then.
I think that they did
create. Okay.
Yeah. And there's more actually too. All of this recent stuff, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
An autopsy of Klutina Annie's body revealed she was petite in stature and most likely white, but she may have also had a degree of Native American heritage.
I was going to say with the jewelry and the way she was dressed,
but
possibly Native American,
but it was the 70s.
True. I know that. Oh,
jewelry.
I know it was pretty popular.
It was extremely popular.
Yeah.
I wear all
that
jewelry
with
now.
Being in Alaska, maybe she was indigenous.
Maybe. I would say probably. Definitely a mix though. She stood between 4'11" and 5'3", and her hair color ranged from light brown to strawberry blonde.
Oh.
So definitely like more white, but like maybe a little indigenous.
Yeah.
So while they still haven't figured out who Klutina Annie truly is, investigators recently discovered the identity of another one of Robert Hansen's victims, who was previously known as Horseshoe Harriet. And this just came out when we air this episode like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So
okay.
Her identity was confirmed after DNA testing on a genealogy database connected her to a relative in Arkansas. Horseshoe Harriet is Robin Pelkey from Denver, Colorado. So one more family can have some closure after almost 40 years.
That's awesome.
40 years.
These are the stories I like. I like it when we have the closure for victims' families.
Absolutely. So Robin was living in Anchorage around the time Hansen was active, and Robin's remains were found near Horseshoe Lake, which is how she got the name Horseshoe Harriet. And the Pelkey family has asked for privacy during this difficult time, so please don't reach out to them. But they are attempting to do the same DNA process with Klutina Annie, so fingers crossed, y'all.
Fingers crossed.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. And then I just want to say where I got all my info. Thefamouspeople.com. Kind of a random thing that popped up when you search for Robert Hansen.
Okay.
LelandHale.com, Wikipedia, theCinemaholic.com, Investigation Discovery, and CBS4 Denver. That's my case, y'all. This guy was, yikes.
Yikes. Yes.
And I'm glad he's dead.
It's always nice when the bad guys are gone and no longer around.
Yeah.
It's also nice when we can have the identities to John and Jane Doe's.
Right.
It's heartwarming.
Yeah.
Sad though, the circumstances around their deaths.
Yeah.
But
well, and it's so sad, I think, for the family. Yes, they have closure, but like all this time they maybe thought that she was
didn't know.
Living her life somewhere alone.
True.
Without them. But finding out she's dead is, I'm sure, hard.
Yeah.
Glad they know. They can put it
to rest.
So
Yes.
that's it. That's about it.
I like it. That was a good story.
Oh, I totally forgot to say who played Robert Hansen in that movie. John Cusack.
Oh, yes.
And he, I kid you not, side by side, I'm going to post a side by side of those two.
Yeah.
It's scary how much they look alike.
Mm. Was Nicolas Cage the detective?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta love Nick Cage.
Of course he was. I have mixed feelings about Nick Cage. Like sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's just like, ugh, what the hell?
Well, he has to take every role that comes to him now because of his issues.
Oh, yeah.
He had all the tax and money issues, so now he just takes everything. And it's public knowledge. It's not like I've got 6 degrees of separation between them, and I game of telephone. I think he's done. He's done some interviews, and he's like, I gotta take everything now because all the money issues he had.
He had too much fun.
He did, and he had Con Air will always be one of my favorites. That's what I mean.
Like he's been in some amazing movies, and then he's been in some that are just like terrible acting. It makes me go, huh? I like. I can't think of the name of the movie.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching this one, Frozen Ground, again.
Everybody
I've seen it. I didn't remember the correlation between Robert Hansen and.
Yeah, if you guys have Discovery Plus, watch The Butcher Baker on Discovery Plus because it is intense.
Awesome.
It's just another, documentary about him.
Nice.
That's it. That's all I got. Where can you find us? I'm gonna let you do that part.
Ooh, I almost forgot we gotta do that. We are at www.crimecoffeeandcrafts.com. We are on Instagram at Crime Coffee and Crafts Pod. We are also on Facebook, Crime Coffee and Crafts Podcast.
Yeah.
We have a link tree in our Instagram. We have merch from our website. You can also get it on the link tree in our Instagram. We have other things. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, and you can rate and review. We would love your reviews. We also have our email.
Only 5 star.
Because we have 5-star content, of course.
Obviously.
Also, our Gmail. We have crimecoffeeandcrafts@gmail.com. We would love your responses or
listener stories.
If you have any ideas of what you would like us to cover, that'd be great. If you have any stories that maybe aren't so known, because that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to work on true crime stories that aren't widely talked about.
Yes.
What else? Am I missing something?
I think that's it.
We're everywhere.
Just find
Spotify,
us.
Amazon Music,
YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. It's got a great thing.
And buy our merch.
Yes,
because it's beautiful.
Yes,
this is just our coffee mug. The 15 ounce.
Yeah, this is Kristen's original artwork. And it says, "I like my brain juice like I like my podcasts, dark and full bodied."
And we came up with that together.
It says Crime Coffee and Crafts Podcast on the bottom. And it's left-hander friendly.
Yes.
Left-hander.
See?
Right here. Yeah.
I am not left-handed. I am right-handed. So it works both ways.
Yay! So that's it. We'll talk to you all later. Ta-ta!
For now.
And now I'm going to share Klutina Annie. These are a few different sketches recently updated to show what she may have looked like. And her watch. Her necklace that had the heart pendant, which doesn't show here. Her bracelet with the turquoise stones. Twisted gold earring. And a couple of different views of her shell ring she was wearing.